Hi, I'm going to go over a spreadsheet in this video lecture that you're going to need to know in order to do your next spreadsheet assignment, in order to do your final spreadsheet assignment. And the spreadsheet has been given to you already. It's called LectureForFinalSS4, so it's an example for spreadsheet 4. And what I show are a list of student names, and I'm pretending that I'm a department chair that has received some roster information, maybe from the admissions department. Maybe there's a SOAR weekend coming up, and there have been some students that have been identified as, being students that I should take a look at and possibly call and see whether they have any interest in computer science. So my criteria for making calls is that I'll call a student if they have a combined math and verbal SAT score of 1100 or above, or if among the students that are in the list a student is at the 70th percentile or higher in their math SAT. So what I've done is I have the list of data, again, the names and the SAT scores, so I can see both the math and verbal, and then I have them added together in this fourth column so I can see what the combined score is. Then in the second column, where I have the math SAT scores, I've used the percentile function to calculate the 70th percentile value among all the scores that are listed in the range B2 through B11. So if we go back and take a look at that function, you'll see that I'm using the percentile function, that it has two arguments. The first argument is the range of cell values that you want to calculate the percentile value for, and then the second argument is the percentile point at which you want to calculate. So given these scores, the value of 572 would be the calculated value at the 70th percentile. So what I'm really looking at then is calling anybody whose math SAT score is 572 or above, or where a value in this column is 1100 or greater. And so there's two conditions by which I would call someone, either of two conditions, either or both of the conditions. So if they score above 572 on their math SAT and they have a combined SAT score of 1100 or above, definitely I would call them. I would also call them if they had a math SAT above 572 but their overall score was less than 1100. And the third way I would call them is if they have a math SAT score that's less than 572 but their combined score is 1100 or above, so they're very strong in their verbal score. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And so what I've wanted the spreadsheet to do here is automatically alert me as to who to call and who not to call. So I have two call columns out here, and I used two different ways to program the spreadsheet to suggest calling. One was I used a logical function called OR, and in this column E, you'll notice that the function OR is nested inside of an if function. I'll explain the details of that here in just a moment. But I'm using the OR function, and over here I'm using the AND function. So I've written that decision the same way, except in one case I use an AND, and in one case I use an OR. And what you can see at a glance is that it's easier to get the if function to evaluate true if I use an OR than it is if I use an AND. So we might say that the AND function is more restrictive than the OR function. Okay, so let's take a look and see what all that's about. If you come over to this area, you'll see that I have, summarized the problem very briefly. Problem you want to call if either condition evaluates true, and then I describe verbally what I'm talking about, and then I show that in a relational expression here. So I'm saying that, for example, for Buzz, okay, as we look at him, there's two possibilities. If the percentile value calculates at the 70th percentile or above, I would want to call him, and then condition 2 would be if Buzz has a combined score in cell D2 that's greater than or equal to 11. So these are the two conditions, all right? And if I have two conditions that I want to evaluate concurrently, then that's when I would use either the AND function or the OR function. And there is a way to summarize how AND OR work so that I can predict how they're going to work anytime I want to use them. And the way that I show how to do this is by using something called a truth table. Okay, so I have a truth table set up for the AND function, and I have a separate truth table set up for the OR function. Now, here's how the truth table works, and if you understand the truth table, then it makes understanding the AND trivial. So we're evaluating two conditions concurrently. Condition 1, let's say, is this condition where we're checking to see if the person scores at or above the 70th percentile, and condition 2 is this condition where we check to see if the combined SAT score is 1100 or above. So those are the two conditions that are being evaluated concurrently. And the possibilities, there's 4 possibilities if I evaluate these two conditions concurrently. One possibility is that condition 1 in and of itself evaluates true, and condition 2 in and of itself evaluates true. A second possibility is that condition 1 in and of itself evaluates true, but condition 2 in and of itself evaluates false. And then third possibility, condition 1 evaluates false, condition 2 evaluates true, and then the final possibility is that both condition 1 and condition 2 in and of themselves evaluate false. So you'll notice that the truth table for both and OR are set up to evaluate those 4 possibilities. And again, AND is the more restrictive operator. We see that with the function that's being used in column F. And here's why. When I AND two conditions, then in order for the overall outcome to evaluate true, both conditions individually have to evaluate true. If either of the conditions individually evaluate false, the overall outcome is false. On the other hand, with OR, it's almost the mirror opposite of AND. You get a true outcome if either of the conditions evaluate true. The only way you get a false outcome is if both conditions evaluate false. So if we come back here and take a look at this function right here, and this is kind of ugly, I understand. It's ugly because I've nested a function within a function within a function. Okay? So what I have is an overall if function. A decision is going to be made to either display call or not to display call. So if I look at this, and you're going to have to watch very carefully, with respect to the if function, which has 3 arguments, the first argument being the Boolean expression, the second argument being the true path, and the third argument being the false path, with respect to this if function, everything that I have highlighted represents the first argument, represents the Boolean expression, the true-false expression. Everything I have highlighted is being evaluated true or false. Okay, so relative to the if, that's the Boolean expression. Now, if the Boolean expression evaluates true, you know what? I didn't highlight enough. Let me try that again. This is the Boolean expression with respect to the if. So if this, rather complicated thing evaluates true, then the second argument with respect to the if is where you see the string literal call. And the third argument where you, with respect to the if, is where you see the string literal that contains nothing, that contains an empty string, just double quote, which has the effect of not displaying anything. So everything that I have highlighted translates into true or false for the overall if function. So what do I have highlighted? Well, what I have highlighted, let me undo that. What I have highlighted, if we take this apart, then is an OR function, and that OR function, if you look at the IntelliSense, has two arguments, okay? And that's for the if, okay? So the OR has two arguments. It has expression 1 and expression 2. So with respect to this OR, keep changing this, okay, so with respect to this OR, let me see if I can do this very carefully. With respect to the OR, which is nested within the if, what I have highlighted represents the first argument. Okay, so that would be equivalent to condition 1. Okay, so we're really looking right here in the truth table, looking at the true-false outcome that would result here. And with respect to the OR, this is the second argument. Okay, now this is pretty straightforward. It says D7, I'm on row D right here, it says D7 greater than equal to 1100. Okay, so that was one of our conditions. That's the second condition here. And our first condition is that the math SAT score evaluate at the 70th percentile. Okay, so what is the first argument saying then? It's saying if B7, which is the math SAT score for this person, if it's greater than or equal to some calculated value, which happens to be what's being expressed here with this third nested function, the percentile function. So it's comparing the value in B7 with the calculated value resulting from this percentile function, and the percentile function looks at all the math SAT scores, as would be in the absolute range from cell B2 to B11, and calculates at 70%. And if that value, which we have previously calculated down here, 572, if that value in B7 is greater than or equal to 572, then this would evaluate true. If D7 compared to 1100 is greater than or equal to, if D7 has value greater than or equal to 1100, then this would evaluate true. So the OR function has, be careful here not to change anything. The OR function has two arguments. The first argument represents the test for condition 1. The second test represents the test for condition 2. And the way the OR is constructed is exactly the way the AND is constructed. So if you compare the functions in column E and column F, you'll see they're written identically, except that in one case I use the AND function, in one case I use the OR function. Now, to solve this problem, okay, so I used OR in column E, F in column, I used AND in column F. So the question is, would I follow the output from column E or would I follow the output from column F? Getting back to the problem, you want to call students if either condition evaluates true. So I would really be looking at the OR function. So if condition 1 and condition 2 both evaluate true, I would want to call them true. I would want to call them. If condition 1 evaluates true, that would be they have a math SAT that exceeds the calculated 70th percentile, then true I would want to call them, even if the overall SAT score is not greater than or equal to 1100. Condition 3 would be that they have a math SAT score that's below the calculated 70th percentile, but they have a overall SAT greater than or equal to 1100. So again, I would want to call them. And condition 4, which is they have a math SAT that's less than the 70th percentile. They have a overall SAT that's less than 1100. In that case, and only that case, would I want to not call them. So the OR is providing the true-false result that's being evaluated by the if function. And again, one last time, the OR function is nested inside of the if. The OR function is what's providing the true-false, or the Boolean expression part, for the if. The if is going to be evaluating the true-false outcome for OR. Okay, hopefully that makes some sense. Spend some time with it. Read about it from the help files. And when we come back next time, then I'm going to expect you to have studied this carefully, and we will take what we know from this spreadsheet and what we've learned in previous exercises and lectures and apply it to our final spreadsheet assignment.